Hello, everybody. It's me, the Lego Dude, and we are now live. I will be waiting for a few minutes for people to show up. I know I changed the time of the live stream to have a little bit earlier. It was originally scheduled to be at 4 p.m., but I changed the time on the stream to 3:30 due to the World Cup semifinal a couple hours ago, finishing earlier than expected. We'll be covering that first. The France versus Spain match. Oh, let me just make sure that there's motion here. So the France versus Spain match, which I talked about in the previous live stream while we were building the World Cup. And so we're definitely going to do a review of that match to give my thoughts on that right after it. And we're also going to be continuing my build of the FIFA World Cup. Um, the We finished 5 bags of the World Cup yesterday, and the hope is to finish between 5 and 7 bags again today. Live stream can go a little longer this time, so hopefully we'll have more people joining it. So far, we don't have anybody in the stream so far, so we'll wait a couple more minutes before we get started. So just for anybody who's tuning in, this is what we've built of the World Cup so far. So right now we're about to be getting started with building bag 6 of the World Cup. And like I said, we'll also be doing a breakdown of the match that just happened. And we'll also be doing a preview and prediction for the World Cup match between Argentina and France. I know, not between Argentina and France. I mean Argentina and England, which is definitely going to be a very interesting match that'll be happening tomorrow. So it looks like we have one person in the stream so far. Oh, we have a comment. First comment. We have a comment from Minecraft channel who says hello Minecraft channel. I see your comments on all the videos all the time. I appreciate you always watching the videos. We have 2 viewers in the stream now. I think people are trickling in, probably just a little bit off with the time schedule because I did say the stream would be at 4 and we started early. So let's see if we can get up to 3 or 4 people before we get started here. I'll leave the World Cup up here for now just to make the view more dramatic. But we are going to be starting with bag 6 here, which I already took out of the box. So this is what we have of the World Cup so far for anybody watching. And we have the instruction manual ready as well, too. So I was just looking through the title of my live stream as well right now, and I noticed that there's a spelling mistake. So I'm gonna fix that real quick before we get started. We'll be getting started in a minute or two. Right, it's been a few minutes now. I think we can just about get started with the build. So I'll be taking the World Cup down now, and we'll start with bag 6 so we can continue off from where we left off last time with the World Cup. So since we waited for a while before starting the stream, we're gonna cut that out, of course, when I afterwards for the stream. But we'll be getting started now. First, starting off with the reaction to the France versus Spain match. Ended 2-0 to France. France beat Spain beat France, which was quite shocking. Before the match, France looked to be. Oh, we have another comment. Hello, it's good to see you here in the live stream. Thanks for showing up. We have 4 people up in the live stream now, which is all great. Continuing with the match reaction, Spain beat France 2-0, which was quite a surprising turn of events. There was definitely a good chance that Spain was going to beat France. However, definitely not as convincingly as they did in the end. France looked like they didn't even look up to the match whatsoever for almost the entire 90 minutes. At the beginning of the match, it did start off pretty even, as was expected, between France and Spain. But then as the match continued, France made a big mistake when they gave away a very ridiculous penalty to Spain. One of the French players, I think their left back Luca Digne, kicked the Spanish winger Lamine Yamal, and Spain were awarded a penalty for that, which was quite unfortunate for France to be going down so early on. Spain's star striker, Mikel Oyarzabal, put the penalty away as expected. I did predict him to score this match, so I did at least get one thing correct. And then after that, France just didn't look up to it whatsoever. Spain were the better team for almost the entire 90 minutes, and then that continued for the rest of the match until they put in a second goal in the 58th minute, if I recall, by Pedro Porro. For the remainder of the match, Spain just did much better, and France were definitely not looking up to it. I think it also has to do with the fact of how well Spain's midfield were playing. They were able to shut down France's star-studded attack completely. France's front line, Kylian Mbappe, Michael Olise, Ousmane Dembele, all top players, but unfortunately for them, they all just got completely shut down by Spain. They looked like Spain's defense and midfield definitely did a great job at making them look like lower quality players. So my prediction for the match had been 2-1. I thought that France would be able to beat Spain 2-1. All the signs before the match were looking like France were just a little bit better than Spain, but the match proved that incorrect. Looking at the match history between the two teams, though, it does look like this should have been a possible expectation, as Spain in the last two meetings against France in 2025 at the Nations League final or semifinal, and in 2024 at the Euro 2024 semifinals, beat France. So it's not like there wasn't a history of Spain beating France. And I do recall mentioning this in my previous live stream. I just thought that France would not. France would treat this differently being a World Cup, but it appears that Spain was just in fact better than them. So Spain are now through to the World Cup final, where they will be facing one of either Argentina or England, which is a match that will be taking place tomorrow. And this live stream, during this live stream, we'll be previewing that match a little bit later as well. Just going a little bit more over the match, though, one other unfortunate thing that happened to France at the beginning in the first half, after they went 1-0 down to Spain through the penalty kick, was that France's starting center back, William Saliba, had to go off with an injury right after the hydration break. This was quite unfortunate for France, as they were already looking down and out, but then losing one of their star defenders definitely pretty much sealed it for them. France are masters of a tactic which I just like to call passing to death. Spain are experts at passing, and they always have been pretty much for the past several decades, and they definitely showed that here with all their passing in the latter stages of the match. Spain really didn't create as many chances as you would think for how much they dominated the match. However, the ones they did create, they were able to put away clinically. If I recall correctly, there couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 shots on target by Spain. Just checking the match statistics real quick. We'll pause for a second while the match statistics load. Yeah, Spain only had 2 shots on target the entire match, and those 2 shots on targets were the 2 shots that they scored. This will be considered unfortunate for France, as France's star striker, Kylian Mbappe, will have been looking to have won the Golden Boot for France as well, to score the most goals. That now, however, will not be happening for France, as he is, if I recall, he is tied on Messi for goals, with Messi having more assists, meaning it's impossible for Mbappe to win the Golden Boot now. The Golden Boot race now for the most part, comes down to 4 players. Spain's striker, Mikel Oyarzabal, Lionel Messi, of course, Argentina's star player, and then 2 English players, Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham, who both have 6 goals. Spain's striker, Mikel Oyarzabal, has 6 goals, and then Messi is way out in front with 8 goals and 3 assists as well. So the only 3 teams left in the tournament now are Spain, who are through to the final, and then the other 2 semifinalists will be facing off, which are Argentina and England, who will be facing off tomorrow. Whoever is the winner of that match will face Spain in the final of the World Cup. I'm pretty sure whichever team goes through the final, it'll be the first time that they have ever faced Spain at a World Cup final. It'll be a brand new World Cup final, which will definitely be interesting. Some complaints before the semifinals were that it could end up being a repeat of 2022 between France and Argentina, but as we can see now, that will not be happening. So if we just go over some of the basic match statistics of the match as well, France had 49% possession during the match. Spain had 51% possession, which is quite surprising. However, by the end of the match, Spain kind of let France set the tempo because they weren't really doing much with the possession anyway. For the most important key parts of the match, though, Spain basically controlled everything. They set the tempo, they did the attacks, and they basically handled any danger that France tried to throw at them. By the end of the match, in the added time, the added 6 or 7 minutes or so, Spain, France did seem to wake up a little bit and finally try to take a couple shots, but by then it didn't mean much as they were already 2-0 behind by that point. Let's take a look at the build real quick to make sure that we're building everything correctly and we're not ranting about the football too much. So looking at some other of the basic statistics from the match, France had 14 shots, 4 on target, and Spain had 10 shots and 2 on target. And those statistics are quite deceptive of how the match was going, if we're being serious. For the grand majority of the match, Spain had almost complete domination over possession. And even though, like I said earlier, they weren't creating many chances, they still set the tempo for the match. And the 2 chances that they did have to score, they clinically took. Spain also had a third goal ruled out for offside by their player Lamine Yamal, but it was clearly offside, so there was no controversy there. So as I was saying about the statistics earlier, almost all the shots France had were at the end, and they were mostly all piecemeal desperation shots, which weren't even close to going in. It says they had 4 shots on target, but in reality, about 3 of those shots were just tame shots that Spain's keeper was easily able to get a hand on. Other than that, the match was surprisingly quite boring. Spain are, of course, experts at this brand of football, just passing other teams to death before clinically taking a chance to score a goal with only a couple of chances that they create during a match. And definitely should have been an expectation before the match that this is kind of how it would go. The only difference was I thought that France would be able to win. So with France crashing out of the World Cup at this stage, it is now set with their manager Didier Deschamps is set to leave the French national team. He had announced before the World Cup that this would be his last major competition as the manager of France, and I'm assuming he's going to carry through on that, considering that the French Federation are planning to replace him with Zinedine Zidane. Zidane is, of course, a legendary French player from the early 2000s and the 90s, and he was an excellent manager, serving 2 stints at Real Madrid for, if I recall correctly, a total of about 5 years. Yeah, serving about 2 stints for a total of around 5 years and winning 3 Champions Leagues and several La Liga titles. So he's just been kind of sitting around waiting to take the France job from Deschamps, and it seems like that is going to be occurring now with a deal already reached between Zidane and the French Football Federation before the World Cup, and with Didier Deschamps retiring. Deschamps was he cut a quite divisive figure for the French national team. Although he was quite successful, his brand of football has been labeled boring before, and the getting to the semifinals was definitely considered the bare minimum, considering France's national team being as stacked as they are. They have star players in almost every position, and if every one of their starting players had to be sent home ill, they still had a bench of second string players who could have served almost just as well as their first string players. Almost every player on the bench for France definitely has a shout to be starting for France in almost any other era in their history. It's just unfortunate for them that they were born in this golden generation of French players. With that in mind, though, we can also see, although it wasn't shocking they lost to Spain, it was surprising how they basically just rolled over when it came to facing Spain. Spain, on the other hand, are definitely looking really good when it comes to getting into the World Cup final. They've shown that they can play they can play the passing game in a quite excellent way. And if you give them even one or two chances, they're able to clinically put them away as they did tonight. They only had one or two chances and they scored 2 goals. So with that in mind, that's done for our reaction to the Spain versus France match. Definitely a big surprise to see France crash out so dramatically like that, but also um, it was also a bit surprising to see just how well Spain performed. They had performed well in the previous matches of the World Cup, as we covered yesterday, with their win versus Saudi Arabia, their win versus Uruguay, their win versus who did they face in the round of 32? Their win versus Austria, very convincing. Their win versus Portugal, their win versus Belgium, and then their win tonight as well. So they're definitely looking like quite a strong side to face off going into the World Cup final. But that brings us to the other semifinal match that's going to be occurring at the World Cup, which is which is Argentina versus England, which will be happening tomorrow. So there's definitely this match definitely has some geopolitical tension to it, so much so that I'm pretty sure that our English referees are still not allowed to uh, to referee matches that involve Argentina due to a conflict that occurred about 40 years ago, which we won't get into, of course, because this is Lego channel and we're just talking about football here on the side, but is a relevant piece of information considering the animosity between the two sides in the football environment. Definitely going to have to move the camera up a bit so we can get the World Cup in view. If anybody has any comments, of course, make sure to leave them in the chat. I'm willing to answer any questions about Legos or football. But for now, we will keep ranting about the World Cup. So the England versus Argentina match is set to take place at the Atlanta Stadium in Atlanta, which is located in the United States state of Georgia in the southeast. It'll be occurring at noon Pacific time, which corresponds to 3 Eastern time, and for everybody over in Europe, that'll be at about 8 or 9 p.m. Looks like we have a comment in the chat that we're going to be reading real quick. How many pieces are in this set? I think that the World Cup consists of just over, let's take a look at the box. Yeah, it consists of about 2,700 pieces. It's definitely the biggest set I've ever built and is definitely befitting for the World Cup. Definitely, it would have been nice if they released a much smaller version, though, for just to be much less expensive. But they did release a full-size version, and I'm pretty sure compared to the size of the actual World Cup, it's almost a 1-to-1 scale. So we're just going to need one moment, as it looks like we dropped a piece. Okay, the piece has been found. So talking about the upcoming Argentina versus England match a little more, like I said, it'll be taking place in the Atlanta Stadium in the United States state of Georgia. And going over the player availability for the match, England currently have 2 players who are either injured or suspended. Their center back, or who also plays as a fullback, Jarrell Quansah, is suspended for a vicious tackle he committed against Jesus Gallardo in the England versus Mexico match a few days ago. And then their midfielder Jordan Henderson is also injured, because he broke his wrist in a celebration after England beat Mexico. which is one of the most ridiculous ways that you could get injured, but surprisingly actually happened. So he's going to be out for that match. We have another comment here. Do you think Argentina is favored by the refs? And what about the facts that the tomorrow semifinal ref is said to be Messi's favorite? Uh, going the ref for tomorrow, I can't quite remember who it is. I think it's a referee from. I think it's an MLS referee, if I recall correctly. Let me look. Ismail Elfath is referee for the match tomorrow for England versus Argentina. I think the statistic is that he's almost not very often penalized Messi at the World Cup. As for your first question, though, penalized Messi in the MLS. As for your first question, though, do I think Argentina is favored by the refs? I think that there's definitely a lot of conspiracies going on about if Argentina is favored by the referees. However, I do think those are overblown. If the question of do I think Argentina is favored by the referees, I think there's definitely some slight favoritism going on, owing to Messi's status as a great player and FIFA potentially wanting him to keep him in the competition for as long as possible. And there's definitely been some contentious decisions that have gone Argentina's way, such as in the match versus Egypt, where they came back within 15 minutes. There was a lot of, you could say, 50-50 challenges that went either way that happened to go in Argentina's favor. And I definitely do still think that Argentina are an extremely strong team. So rather than being outright corruption or just blatant favoritism, I think it's more that Argentina are being helped a little bit when it comes to 50-50 decisions, and then they're able to do the rest themselves just because of how high quality of a team they are with Messi and a couple of their other best players. It does definitely, though, not give the match a good look that, for example, if they have referees that are, for example, have not penalized Messi before, and then they have that referee refereeing the match, that, of course, doesn't look good for the match. Just like for the quarterfinal match between France and Morocco, if I recall correctly, the refereeing team was mostly Argentinian, which did not look good for that match, of course. However, it was refereed fairly cleanly afterwards, and France did comfortably beat Morocco 2-0. So it seems like there wasn't too much going on there. But yeah, that's my response overall for that take on the Argentina versus England match. As for England, of course, I think there definitely were some there's definitely some uproar, I think you could say, about their match versus Norway and some of the refereeing decisions that went on there. So assuming that both England and Argentina are slightly favored by the refs, we'd all be hoping that that gets canceled out a little bit during this match between the two. We have another comment up here. Who do you got to win the World Cup now with 3 teams remaining, excluding France for the third World Cup match? Well, I don't want to cover that just yet because we're about to preview the England versus Argentina match. But once I predicted that, then I'll give my full thoughts. So for the England versus Argentina match, we went over England's player injuries. Going over Argentina's now. Argentina has a fully fit squad. Looking at the most likely lineups for the Argentina versus England match, we just need to pull up the full squad list so I can make a full prediction for that real quick. For Argentina, the predicted lineup is going to be Emiliano Martinez in goal, who is their starting goalkeeper, of course. I don't see why he wouldn't play. They're going to be having Nahuel Molina, Christian Cuti Romero, Lisandro Martinez, Nicolas Tagliafico, what's his name? McAllister? Yeah, McAllister in the midfield, Paredes and Enzo Fernandez in the midfield. And up front, I think they'll be starting Julian Alvarez, Lautaro Martinez, and probably Messi, of course. Messi is going to play, no doubt. Messi, of course, will be hoping to score a goal so that he can just outright be the #1 player for the Golden Boot. As of now, there's still a chance, however slight it is, that the English players could catch up to him and the Spanish striker, Mikel Oyarzabal. The English players, Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane, are currently 2 goals behind Messi, and they're definitely be hoping that if they score here, that they could catch up. And there is a chance, of course, that England win here, and if they do win, then Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham would both be hoping to score so they can catch up to Messi and potentially score in the World Cup final to overtake him for the Golden Boot. Now, looking at England's potential lineup for the World Cup semifinal versus that's not supposed to go there for the World Cup semifinal versus Argentina. Let's just pull it up real quick. Oh, I also forgot to mention one of England's other star players, Declan Rice, is a doubt for this match due to picking up food poisoning while he was or stomach illness while in Mexico. So he was also playing through illness versus Norway when England were playing versus Norway. So it's definitely a doubt if he's going to be starting for the match tomorrow versus Argentina. This would be a big loss for England and definitely a boost for Argentina's chances, considering that he's one of England's most important midfielders. So we're now finished with bag 6. We'll get to bag 7. So England's predicted lineup, though, of course, most likely be starting Jordan Pickford in net. He is their number one goalkeeper. There's definitely been some questions occasionally about his reliability, but all in all, he's a reliable shot stopper. We have another comment here. Are there any other sets that are coming out that you're excited about building? Definitely a couple sets. I think for Lego Star Wars, there's a few new sets coming out that are definitely too big and expensive, though. But I think they got a couple new battle packs coming out soon. And I have a video in the works for the new sets that they're releasing in 2027. I'll see if I can pull that up right now. I think there's definitely a couple interesting sets there. If I recall off the top of my head, they're going to be releasing a movie studio based off the filming, a Lego studio based off the filming of the A New Hope Star Wars movie for the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, which is definitely going to be an interesting set next year. It doesn't look too overpriced, so that would definitely be really interesting to build because it'll be including a George Lucas minifigure, a model of Luke's land speeder that includes a lot of the other components that represent the effects they used to make it look like it was hovering, and then a couple of the other minifigures to represent cast members and crew members. So that'll definitely be an interesting set that's releasing next year. I think also another set that's probably too expensive to get, but is also an interesting one to be seeing is that next year Lego are supposed to be releasing a Lego Star Wars Grauman theater, and this theater is this Lego set is based off one of the first theater actually where Star Wars first premiered in 1973. They're releasing a lot of these sets next year for the 50th anniversary. Sorry, not 1973, 1977. They're releasing a lot of these sets next year for the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, so it'll definitely be interesting to be seeing all of those released next year with all of the, I guess, historic value you could say they have to be based off a lot of the events that happened in the first year of Star Wars' creation. Just taking a quick look at the build so far, this is what we have so far. There's all the structure of the build and the base, and then, of course, all the World Cup's going to go on top of it. So we'll get back to the lineups and any other Lego questions once we have these bags open. All the little pieces, of course, roll around, so we got to keep those from falling. We might have to go back down and get that if it's not an extra piece, but for now, we'll keep building. So looking at England's predicted lineup again, Pickford in net, he's their first choice goalkeeper. I think they'll start Reece James at right back. He's one of their best fullbacks. He's very injury prone though, so for all we know, he could get injured between then and now, or he might just not start due to injury, or he might have to be taken off due to injury. Ezri Konsa and Mark Gehi are England's first choice center backs. Fairly solid pairing. However, they do have a mistake in them, as Ezri Konsa showed when he blatantly fouled a Ghanaian player in the group stages, but somehow got away without giving up a penalty. At left back, they'll have Nico O'Reilly, solid defender for England. In midfield, they'll have Elliot Anderson and Jude Bellingham shortly. Jude Bellingham is England's standout player this World Cup. That'll definitely be interesting for him to be playing there. We have a couple more comments. Is this the skeleton of it? Yes, this is the skeleton of the World Cup. And because it's colorful, yes, they always have the skeleton made of colorful pieces just to make it easier to build and to make sure that I'm not sure if it's cheaper or not for Lego, but I think it is. So that's one reason they do it. And it's also easier to see the difference between each step so you don't get confused if all the pieces are the same color. Going back to England now, their star midfielder is Jude Bellingham, definitely their standout player. He saved them versus Mexico. He saved them versus versus Norway, and he's overall been their standout player, even more so than England's star striker Harry Kane, who will also be starting this match. Both of them have 6 goals so far this World Cup, which is definitely unheard of for England. So they're doing quite well so far, and they'll definitely be looking at their chances and thinking they have a chance of getting past Argentina. Also starting for England in midfield is probably going to be. They're probably going to try starting Declan Rice. I say, even though he's been injured and with a stomach illness, he's such a key player to them that they're definitely going to try to play him, even if they have to drag him off at halftime with some sort of. If they have to drag him off if he's still not able to play after halftime. So on in their front line, like I mentioned earlier, Harry Kane is their starting striker without a doubt. And then on the wings, there I think they're going to be having Jude Bellingham and Bukayo Saka playing. Their backup wingers, of course, are Anthony Gordon, who is definitely going to be in there with a shout to start, and then Marcus Rashford, whose form hasn't been that great this tournament, but is still he's still been good for England. See, what is your favorite Star Wars film of all time? Oh, that's definitely a tricky question. So I'll start with the top three, and then I'll try to sort them out from there. So, in the top three, I'd say we have Revenge of the Sith, my favorite film from the prequels. I'd say we have A New Hope, right? The first Star Wars film. Definitely love that film. Watched it a ton of times. And I'd say we'll also put The Empire Strikes Back right there. Quite possibly one of the greatest sequels for a movie ever produced. So of the it looks like these pieces are stuck. So of the top three, putting them in order, it's definitely going to be a rough choice. At number three, I'll put A New Hope. It's a great movie, but no, I'm not sure if I can put A New Hope under Revenge of the Sith. I think Revenge of the Sith it's definitely a great movie. However, I might have to put it just a bit lower than the originals, just because of how iconic and game changing the originals were, and of course that they introduced Star Wars as a whole. So I think I'll be putting Revenge of the Sith at number three. Definitely one of my favorite movies. Could watch it a bunch of times. At number two, I'll put A New Hope, a very innovative movie, introduced Star Wars, great movie. And then at number one, I think I'll be putting The Empire Strikes Back. Like I mentioned earlier, probably one of the best sequels of all time. It has all the excellent scenes at the beginning with the battle on Hoth. After that, the chase to Cloud City, Luke's training on Dagobah with Master Yoda. Of course, Master Yoda is my channel's mascot. Of course, Master Yoda on Dagobah is my channel logo because of how great Empire Strikes Back is. And then at the end, of course, with Darth Vader giving the infamous reveal of being Luke's father. So yeah, I'd say just about Empire Strikes Back squeaks just ahead of the other two movies, A New Hope and Revenge of the Sith. We have another comment. Did Lego 2D Star Wars show ever get Legos? There was one Lego released off that 2D animated show, which was the Anakin's Jedi Starfighter, a blue Jedi Starfighter, was released. It's definitely a very nice set. However, no other sets were ever released based off of that. It appears here that we've had a bit of an issue with a couple of pieces getting stuck, so I'm going to have to go get the brick separator. Let's try to keep everything in the camera frame. So we're going to step out of the camera for a second just to get these pieces separated. I'll be back again in just a few seconds, hopefully, to keep answering questions and building. Okay, the brick separator was successful. For the first one anyway. Now we just got to get the second one separated. I'll put up the next question on the screen here so we can read it while I'm separating. Do you consider 54 English wins in British Home Championship international trophies. Home championships international trophy. I'm gonna have to look that up just to confirm it's what I'm thinking about. So 1 second, please. Of course. So the British home championship, when they play against all the other teams in the home nations, like Scotland, Wales, all that. British have the most wins. Uh, we have another comment. Thank you for joining in the stream. I'm glad to see that we have more viewers from other countries. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in from Mexico. So talking about the British English wins in the British home championships, yes, England, of course, are the most successful of the home nations. However, what I would say about that is I don't think it would be that hard for England to be the most successful out of the home nations. Scotland definitely used to be a much better national team. However, at this point, Scotland are not as good as they used to be. And of course, the home nations championship was abolished quite a few decades ago. So I don't think it would have that much influence on the outcome of this match. Definitely, though, England, as you said, have a very dominant record in the home championship. We'll just be taking another moment to use the brick separator here. We need to get these pieces separated. All right, we definitely paused the stream for long enough, so I'll just hope that this piece won't be needed for a while, and we'll keep building right now. So we have a new comment. Let's start with the first one. Did Lego ever make a set focusing on a specific minifigure? They've not made a set focusing on a specific minifigure. However, what they have done is made sets that are just in fact a specific minifigure, such as an exclusive minifigure polybag. One example of this is the Darth Revan polybag from I think it's 2014, which just had that specific minifigure. And then Lego, of course, have also had other sets that have just been that have just been polybags with one specific minifigure in them. So moving on to our next comment, who's your favorite football soccer player of all time? So that's definitely a tough question to ask. I could say Pele, of course, because he's the greatest of all time. However, I've not actually watched too much content of him playing, so I don't think that would be a good way of measuring things. So I think probably my favorite player of all time. Let's take a look real quick. It's definitely some great players who I enjoy watching play are Raul Jimenez from the Mexico national team. He is an excellent player for his club in England, Wolverhampton Wanderers, and then his second club. Oh, there goes a piece. Hopefully that won't be useful. That won't be needed. And then for his second club, Fulham in the Premier League. So definitely an excellent player to watch. He has an excellent aerial awareness and positional awareness. So it's always good to see him playing in the Premier League. Other top players, I'd say, such as for Manchester United, for example. In the past season, they had some excellent players to watch, like Brian Mbumo and Mateus Cunha. Cunha is Brazilian. Of course, always watching Messi play is always extremely entertaining to see, as Messi can always basically pull something out of nowhere when it comes to playing. So yeah, I'd say around there are some of my favorite players who I like to watch play. So just doing a quick rundown over the England lineup again. We have Pickford in goal, and the defense will have Reece James, Ezri Konsa, Mark Gehi, Nico O'Reilly. In midfield, probably it's going to be Elliot Anderson, Declan Rice, Bukayo Saka, and then at the front, Jude Bellingham. And then in the front, we'll have Bukayo Saka, Anthony Gordon, and Harry Kane. So now we go on to the match. England versus Argentina. So far this World Cup, Argentina have not looked all too convincing. Their squad is very good. However, it definitely has a feeling of just their strategy being Messi will fix it. So whenever they've gone behind or whenever they've been playing, they've just passed the ball to Messi basically, or try to channel everything through Messi and hoped he fixed it. He'll fix it. And so far that's worked out decent for them. We have another comment here coming in real quick. It's just because of wins in the British Home Championship or international wins, and England has won not but 55 international trophies, which is a nice cope. Yes, that is very interesting technically, because then technically speaking, England do have a ton of international trophies, which is definitely good for them to. I guess if England fans want to include those, then that's an interesting choice for them to be including those so that they can say that they've won a ton of trophies, even though the only international trophy that England has won so far has been the 1966 World Cup, and even then that was controversial because it's unknown if the ball actually crossed the line for a Jeff Hurst hat trick goal. It's definitely, I'm not sure if there's been any further analysis done on that, but that's definitely going to be that's definitely one of those things that just nobody's going to be able to be sure of, since the ball seemed like it was just on the line or just past the line, but it's just impossible to tell from the camera angles available at the time. So yeah, I guess we can talk about the international trophies real quick. I'm not sure of the exact number of international trophies Argentina has, but they definitely have a ton. They have 3 World Cups. They won the 1958 World Cup, the 1986 World Cup, and the 2022 World Cup. And they've also won quite a great deal of Copa Americas. And then they also, just for good measure, they also won the Finalissima last year, or a couple years ago, versus Italy 3-0, which is a match between the winners of the Euros and the winner of the Copa America. So as I was saying about the match now, Argentina have not looked too convincing, and their strategy has so far been to get the ball to Messi and he'll fix it, and so far that has in fact worked out for them. So, for example, in their group stages, they had a match versus Algeria. Messi scored a hat trick. They won 3-0, easy going. Second match versus Austria, they won 2-0, brace for Messi. Third match versus Jordan, they won 3-1, free kick goal for Messi. And then once it got to the knockout rounds, it did get a little bit more tricky for Argentina. They first off, they played versus Cape Verde, who everybody thought that they would beat easily. However, they were shocked when Cape Verde definitely pushed Argentina almost all the way to the edge, which is quite frightening for Argentina, as you could tell by their players defending for their lives. Argentina took the lead before Cape Verde equalized, sending the game in an extra time. Argentina then took the lead again before Cape Verde scored probably one of the goals of the tournament with a curling goal from the edge of the box by a Cape Verde left back or right back, I think, fullback, Sidney Lopez Cabral, which is definitely going to be in the World Cup compilations for a long time. Argentina then took the lead and were defending for their lives for the last 15 minutes of the match as Cape Verde kept relentlessly attacking. So that definitely made for an entertaining match there. After that, Argentina played versus Egypt. Again, everybody thought that, oh, there goes the camera. Everybody thought that Argentina would easily walk past Egypt, and then Egypt almost sent them packing home. Egypt scored first early on. Well, first, Argentina missed a penalty. Messi, oh, we have another comment coming in. Do you think the strategy of Messi and friends will work against England? I don't want to get too far ahead, but I do have a feeling that, yes, I think the Messi and friends strategy will still be able to work out against England. It's worked out before for all their previous matches, and I do think that it'll definitely keep working for this match. Finishing up with Argentina's match history, though, they went 2-0 down to Egypt. They had a penalty early on, which Egypt's keeper saved versus Messi. Messi seems to be allergic to free kicks, to penalties at this point, which is hilarious considering how good he is at the much more difficult free kicks. But yes, Messi has missed 2 penalties so far this World Cup. So then Egypt scored early on in the match to put themselves 1-0 up, and then they scored again later on to put themselves 2-0 up, and it looked like easy cruising for Egypt. Like Egypt were actually about to send Argentina home. Argentina, of course, though, continued their strategy of Messi and friends, pass the ball to Messi and see what Messi can do, and it worked with them scoring 3 goals extremely quickly. One from Messi, one assisted by Messi, and then one from, if I recall, it was Enzo Fernandez who scored in extra time to send them through to the knockout rounds 3-2. Argentina managed to come back from 2-0 down in the span of about 13 minutes to save their World Cup and go through to the quarterfinals. As mentioned before, this was quite insane considering how up to that point they had just not been showing up for the World Cup all that much. Other than Messi, of course. But as we can see here, they were able to come back with their strategy of just get it to Messi. Then in the quarterfinals, they played against the formidable Switzerland. Switzerland are definitely not the best team at the World Cup. However, they've been solid to make it to the quarterfinals. To get here, they beat Colombia in a penalty shootout, and before that, they comfortably beat Algeria. So for this match, Argentina were again the favorites, but then Switzerland again pushed them all the way to the end. So Argentina opened the scoring off a header from a corner kick by Alexis McAllister, assisted by Messi, of course. And then Argentina basically just bunkered in, hoping to see out a 1-0 win. Switzerland, though, kept pushing things forward, and they scored to equalize later in the match. It looked like the momentum was in Switzerland's corner when one of Switzerland's players did something which is extremely ridiculous and definitely put his nation's World Cup in jeopardy, as we can see. So this player was already in a yellow card, and then he inexplicably dived in the middle of the pitch from a imaginary challenge from an Argentinian player. And the new rules for FIFA state that if you dive, then you get a yellow card if it's caught. So a yellow card was initially given to the Argentinian player, but then the VAR reviewed this and they instead awarded the yellow card to the Swiss player. And since that was the second yellow card, he was promptly sent off. And then Switzerland were down to 10 men. Switzerland had just equalized before this and were looking on the up. They were attacking Argentina. They were looking like they might be able to push for a second goal. But then after this, they really couldn't do any of that. So they had to hunker in to try to drag the match to penalties. And it was Argentina who were in the ascendancy after that. Switzerland were able to keep it 1-1 and send the game to extra time. However, Argentina, of course, are no slouches, and they were able to get the job done versus a 10-man Switzerland. They were able to put in 2 goals against Switzerland in extra time, with one from Lautaro Martinez in the end of the first half, in the middle of the second half of extra time, and then late in the match. No, at first it was Julian Alvarez who scored for them, who scored a beautiful goal from the edge of the box, a curling shot that went in the top corner, and then Lautaro Martinez finished the match to put them up 3-1. So Argentina, of course, here just barely skated by Switzerland, and definitely got lucky that they got a red card in that match. Of course, their strategy of Messi and friends worked out here. Messi didn't score in this match, but he did get an assist. So another cool fact here that I'll just put down is that Messi, until this match, was on track to be only the second player to score in every match of a World Cup. This record was first set by the Brazilian player Jairzinho in... Oh, we're supposed to make 2 of these. That's why there's still pieces left over. So this record was first set by the Brazilian player Jairzinho at the 1970 World Cup, when he scored for every match for Brazil and they're on their route to winning the World Cup. He scored in all 3 group stage matches, the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the final. Messi was on track to match this record until the match versus Switzerland, where he failed to score. In any case, though, Messi still, of course, is coming up big for Argentina, and in all the big moments, he's been showing up to save Argentina. So their strategy of Messi and friends is still, in fact, working. So with that in mind, we have everything set for Argentina. They've looked shaky, but every time that people have doubted them, they've come back. And if you look at the statistics, they have the most goals scored at the World Cup so far, with 17. I'm not sure if Spain overtook that record with the 2 they scored just today versus France, but we'll take a look at that to see if they did. Looking at England now, England have also had an extremely shaky World Cup. They started off the World Cup with their only convincing win so far versus Croatia, where they won 4-2. It looked very convincing, and everybody was thinking that England were actually going to do quite well for once. But then they followed that up with a draw versus Ghana that they honestly actually should have lost, considering the fact that Ghana were unfairly not awarded a penalty for a challenge that Ezri Konsa committed against a Ghanaian forward inside England's penalty box. So England got away lucky there with a draw. And after that, they played versus Panama, who played quite well versus them and definitely gave England a challenge. But however, England were able to break them down in the end and get a couple of late goals to win 2-0. After that, England played versus the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Again, England looked like they should have won that easily, and there's definitely a lot of people who had them down for a comfortable 2 or 3-0 win. But Congo pushed them all the way to the limit again. Congo scored early within the first 7 minutes with a great goal by their forward, Sipenga, and then they resolutely defended for the next 70 minutes or so. England were definitely panicking for a lot of that match and chucked on a couple extra forwards at the end. However, unfortunately for Congo, their defensive line and all their players definitely seemed to be dropping in tempo near the end of the match, and they didn't have any players who they could substitute them off with. So England scored 2 late goals to just about narrowly squeak by the Congo to the next round of the World Cup. And then after that, of course, there was the match where England beat where England played versus Mexico. England played versus Mexico in the round of 16 at the Estadio Azteca, and unfortunately for Mexico, they lost. However, they definitely put up a fight all the way throughout the entire tournament. See, we have a quick question here. What was the smallest Lego World Cup from Lego? The smallest Lego World Cup from, I think this is in fact the small. Well, there's also a small molded World Cup included, which we have here. Let's put it on the screen real quick. That is the smallest World Cup Lego I've ever made. Lego World Cup. So getting back to the match now, Mexico played versus England at home in the Estadio Azteca for a great game. Mexico opened the match very well, having complete control on everything. However, unfortunately for them, they made a couple of quick mistakes, which England capitalized on, and England subsequently went up 2-0. Mexico, of course, weren't deterred by this, and they continued attacking during the match and got back a quick equalizer from Julian Quinones. They almost equalized before halftime, but unfortunately for them, they weren't able to, which was definitely a bit of a turning point in the match. Going into the second half, Mexico kept attacking and were rewarded for these efforts when they were able to draw a red card challenge from an English player. So the English player definitely took out one of, I think I mentioned this earlier, Jarrell Quansah took out one of Mexico's players and got a red card for that, got a straight send-off for that, and he's still suspended for that dangerous challenge. In any case, England were down to 10 men. However, Mexico promptly responded to this by giving a penalty to England. Oh, we have another comment. Have you ever played any EA Sports FIFA video games, now called FC? If so, which one is your favorite? I've definitely played a couple of them. I've played the FIFA 20 and FIFA 22, not the EA Sports though. Out of them, I'd say my favorite would probably have to be FIFA 22. Solid game. I usually play career mode. And definitely enjoy the FIFA games and all the business of handling things in them. A lot of cool stuff that you can do. The mechanics of all the playing on the football pitch as well as fun, and I think I usually set the halves to be like 8 to 10 minutes long so that I can have enough time to play and set up my strategy. I'm definitely a big fan of managing small teams and with a small budget, and then trying to get wins against big teams by playing extremely defensively. It's always fun when you do that and you get a couple wins. But yeah, that's my favorite FIFA game, FIFA 22. So going back to the England versus France match, no, the England versus Mexico match real quick. So going into the second half, it was 2-1. England had a red card. And instead of fighting back, Mexico promptly gave England a penalty kick with a unfortunate challenge. Mexico's best defender got injured during the halftime, and they brought on another defender who wasn't quite as good and let the English player in, which subsequently resulted in England getting a penalty kick. They did score this, of course, with Harry Kane, who is an expert penalty taker. A few minutes later, though, Mexico had their own penalty to bring it back to 3-2 from Raul Jimenez, who definitely put his penalty away. He's an expert penalty taker and had absolutely no problems with putting that away versus England. And so for the last 30 minutes of the match, Mexico were 1 goal behind with a one-man advantage. England, of course, subbed on their one of their cheat code defenders, you could say, who was about 7 feet tall. Well, he's not actually 7 feet tall. He's about 6'7", 6'8". And Mexico kept trying to whip crosses into the box. Unfortunately for them, though, they were just not able to get things done versus the English defense, who were all extremely tall and just kept heading the ball away. And there wasn't much Mexico could do versus that. So the match ended out with England winning versus Mexico. England winning versus Mexico 3-2, which is one of the most entertaining matches of the tournament, if I do say so. So then England were through to the quarterfinals of the World Cup. After defeating Mexico, they had Norway to get through. And Norway definitely put up a good fight, and they probably should have even won the tournament, won the match. But however, they didn't take their chances after after Norway went up 1-0. There was in fact one moment between the Norwegian strikers, where the Norwegian striker Sorloth, if he passed the other Norwegian player Holland, they could have scored to make it 2-0, but he instead chose to dribble around a bit and to shoot, which did not end up well for Norway. England responded, being just able to come back to about two to draw the match level to make it 1-1, and then after that it went to extra time, where in extra time England were able to score a early goal and then use the same strategy they used versus Mexico of subbing on their tallest defenders and packing all their players into the box to defend. So England went through to the semifinals like that, and we're now up to England versus Argentina, the World Cup semifinal, and my prediction for it. I will be making my prediction in a couple minutes after this intermission we're about to take, because I need to find a couple of the pieces which I just lost, which rolled off the table. So I'll be back in 2 or 3 minutes, hopefully, after I found these lost pieces. Hello, everybody. We've now returned from the very quick intermission. We have found all the pieces that were lost. There's like 4 pieces that fell off the table. And we've also used our trusty brick separator to separate these 2 pieces which were stuck together. So we'll continue the build now, and I'll also finally be making my prediction for the Argentina versus England match, considering all the information we know about the match. So I think it's also worth mentioning that the match is going to be happening in Georgia in the summer, and as we all know, in the south of the United States during the summer, it gets quite hot. Most of the English players are first off not used to playing in the summer, and they are also not used to playing in the heat. In England, for most of the year, it's it has a quite cold temperature, you'd say. So, having this all in mind, who do I think is going to win, England or Argentina? I think that Argentina are just about going to be able to squeak by England. It'll definitely be close, like all their matches have been, but I think they'll have just enough in the tank with, especially with Messi, who still looks to be playing at an extremely high level. They just about get by England. England have quite a poor record in World Cup semifinals, and they have quite a poor record in World Cup quarterfinals. The last semifinal that England reached in the World Cup was in 2018, where they played versus what were expected to be a very weak Croatia team. Everybody had Croatia winning, no, not Croatia, England winning before the match quite comfortably, and Croatia were able to beat them. So we have a comment here saying we're going to F and win from Starman. I mean, it is quite possible England win. I did not say that England are slouches either. If they do win, I wouldn't be extremely surprised, as I think that they're fairly evenly matched with Argentina. However, Argentina do seem to have a bit of a thing where they play to the level of their opponent. They play to the level of Cape Verde. They play to the level of Egypt. They play to the level of all the teams that they faced off before. And I do think that their performances are definitely going to go up when they play versus England. I do think the match is going to be quite even. But at the end of the day, I think Argentina are probably going to squeak by in a very narrow victory. Like I was mentioning earlier, England reached the semifinal of the World Cup in 2018, where they played versus Croatia. Everybody had England to be down for an easy win there, which would have set up a France versus England final. However, Croatia were able to beat England and go through to the World Cup final instead of them. With that in mind, England definitely have gotten better since then. They have a much better team, and their manager is extremely well respected in almost all football circles. Thomas Tuchel, he's their first, I think, their first non-English manager at a World Cup in quite a while, and or ever actually. And he's done very well with England, getting them all the way here to the semifinals, which is not common for England. However, I think that they are probably gonna not be able to get past the final hurdle. Argentina, on the other hand, also are an extremely well-drilled team with the sole and excellent strategy of get the ball to Messi. Their manager has managed them for quite a long time now and basically has this style perfected, which is why they've won so many trophies over the past few years. So with all of that in mind, I think Argentina are going to beat England in an extremely entertaining match, 3-2. I think England are going to open the scoring probably because that's how yeah, I think that's how it's going to go. England are going to open the scoring with a goal from, let's say, an early goal from Jude Bellingham. But then I think that Argentina are going to try to play defensive at first, like they usually always do. But after England have scored, they're definitely going to be trying to get back into the match, and I think they're going to be able to successfully do that with a early goal by, let's say, their striker, Julian Alvarez. This is going to leave the match even with both of the teams wanting to compete, of course, and I think that they're going to be doing this, and I think Argentina are going to take the lead then with a goal from Messi. And then after that has happened, I think that England, of course, they're not just going to fall over. England always put in a good performance, especially when they're behind. I think they'll get a late equalizer through Harry Kane. And now that I'm thinking about it, I might be changing my prediction to a narrow Argentina win on penalties. Because I really think about it, if England are tied with Argentina, they definitely fancy themselves to get through with an extremely resolute defense. So I think after it goes 2-2 in normal time, goals from Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane for England, and goals from Julian Alvarez and Messi for Argentina, it'll go to extra time where neither team will score. And then I think that it'll go to penalties. And on penalties, it's always a coin toss who's going to win. And like I said, I do think this match is going to be extremely evenly matched. However, on penalties, I think that Argentina might just get the better of England due to the aptitude of their goalkeeper, Emiliano Martinez, at saving penalties. He was excellent for Argentina during the 2022 World Cup and during several previous Copa Americas, and he always plays up a level even from his club form, which is already excellent when he's playing for Argentina. So I think that Argentina are going to win 4-3 on penalties. I think I definitely think Argentina and England are both going to miss a penalty. Let's just make it more dramatic. However, I think England are going to probably have some sort of dramatic penalty miss near the end, considering that, in fact, England have a specialized penalty taker they took with them just to take penalties in case of a penalty shootout, Ivan Toney. Considering he's not played a minute, I think it's very possible that if they go to a penalty shootout and sub him on, he won't be warmed up and he could miss a penalty. This happened to several other teams who've tried subbing on players who are supposedly specialized at penalties. However, since they weren't warmed up and weren't quite ready, when they took their penalties, they missed them. So if England were to sub on their specialist penalty taker, Ivan Toney, I think there's definitely a chance that it could end up not going too well and he could miss a penalty. And then I think that's how England go up in the World Cup semifinals. It'll be the closest they've gotten to a World Cup final since 1966, if I recall, since in the last World Cup they went on extra time. However, I think that'll just about be where England finish. And with this, that would see Argentina going through to the World Cup final, setting up a final between Spain and Argentina, which is definitely going to be very interesting, considering some of the obviously there's some geopolitical topics there, which some people might consider interesting. However, it'll also be interesting just because of how high quality these two sides are. Argentina feature quite possibly the greatest player of the modern era, and Spain are a well-drilled, well-oiled machine of passing who will be able to score and punish any other team given just a couple of chances. So that'll set up a World Cup between Spain and Argentina that would be taking place in, if I recall correctly, the World Cup final will be taking place in New Jersey, which is quite certainly a choice considering the other states which are available to host it. But they are going to be doing that. So this sets up a final between Spain and Argentina. So if anybody else has any predictions for how they think the match is going to go, then make sure to tell me in the comments right now so that we can read them out. Just to mention, it appears that our lighting has gone out. Let's just get some new lighting real quick. And we're back with the lighting. So that's my prediction for the World Cup. Oh, we have another comment real quick. How long do you think it's going to take to build? Definitely a few days. It's definitely going to need to be built longer during the third place playoff and also during the World Cup final. So it'll take a little bit while to complete. In fact, right now, just as it is, it almost looks like the Jules Rimet Trophy, which was the original version of the World Cup. That's definitely more history there. I was planning to cover that in today's stream, but I'll just do that for the next one. But just to go over some quick points, there's two World Cup trophies that used to be shaped as the Jules Rimet Trophy, and that trophy was stolen, I think, after from one country that won the World Cup and melted down for gold, which is quite unfortunate. And it was then replaced with the modern-day World Cup, which we see now, such as in the instruction manual. Definitely quite interesting history there. I'll try to learn more about that and put it down so I can talk about it in the next live stream. Yeah, but anybody with any more predictions, make sure to leave them in the comments and I'll read them out right now for everybody to see. And just so I can get my predictions down one more time, I think it'll be a 2-2 draw with Argentina winning in extra time. Goals from Bellingham and Kane, goals from Julian Alvarez and Lionel Messi, and then Argentina just narrowly squeak by on penalties due to the penalty saving prowess of their goalkeeper, Emiliano Martinez. So I know we just had an England fan here in the chat, so I want to hear your prediction too for the World Cup, as it'd be interesting to see by how much you potentially think England win by. Because, of course, it wouldn't be shocking if England won, because this is going to be a very even match. However, I personally think Argentina are just going to squeak by. It's definitely, of course, a possibility that England win. I don't think it'll be a blowout in either direction, though. So looking at the potential final really quick now, I mean, of course, if England win, then this won't be the final. But the final I have set up would be Argentina versus Spain. And looking at the two teams right now, Argentina always have the big X factor, which is Messi. So even though Spain, if you look at the two teams side by side and consider what they've done so far, Spain looked to be a better side. Argentina have the X factor of Messi, which can, when it comes into play, there's not really much you can do about it. Messi is an excellent player, probably individually better than any player on Spain's squad, and Argentina's team is constructed completely around Messi to make sure that he can do what he needs to when he needs to do it on the pitch. And so you can see Argentina's squad when they're pressing so that Messi doesn't have to. So they can just leave Messi walking around to analyze the pitch and get ready to make any runs he's going to. So with that in mind, I think if we have a Spain versus Argentina final, I think conventionally speaking, Spain will be favorites for sure, right? Because as a whole, their team is higher quality. They've put together better performances, and they've shown that they'll punish any mistake with a goal. Basically, it's right. It's almost guaranteed that they score if you make a mistake, as we saw from the France versus Spain match, where they scored 2 goals off of 2 shots, the 2 on-target shots they had. When it comes to this match, though, Spain versus Argentina, like I mentioned, Messi is definitely going to be the defining factor here. If Messi has an off day, then Argentina definitely lose, right? I can see Spain winning like a 2-0 comfortably if Messi has an off day. If Messi's completely on it, though, then this is definitely going to be an extremely close match for Argentina and Spain. So considering the fact that Messi has played 120 minutes in the previous 2 matches and hasn't had much rest, chances are that he's not going to be completely up to speed for the match versus Spain, assuming that Argentina beat England, because Argentina are going to also need him to be firing on all cylinders versus England if they want to go through. Despite this, I do think that he'll definitely show up for the match, for the World Cup final. And with all that in consideration, I think there's definitely a very good chance that Argentina might win the World Cup back-to-back. Now, it's definitely going to be controversial considering that Spain are as a whole a better team than Argentina. However, Messi is definitely just that defining X factor, which can change things for Argentina. The only other players who I'd say have that type of defining quality about them are probably for France, Mbappe. However, France are now knocked out of the World Cup, and probably for England, right? Jude Bellingham is one of their best players, who's definitely put up a bunch of great performances that have saved them. So if he does that versus Argentina, then they could definitely even win there in the semifinal. And then a couple other players like Erling Haaland or Spain's winger, Lamine Yamal. However, he has not really showed up all too well for this World Cup, and I doubt he will for a potential World Cup final between Spain and Argentina. So with that in mind, I think that Argentina might be able to win the World Cup back-to-back. I think there's definitely a big chance that they win this 2026 World Cup. If they do, there are definitely going to be further complaints, have you seen already, about some favoritism from the referees. However, I definitely do think that Argentina are also just a very high-quality team that have it in them to make very excellent comebacks and to win matches. I definitely think there's some merit to the potential possibility of slight bias towards Messi due to FIFA wanting to keep him in for the World Cup, and because they will, it's just better for them if he stays in longer. However, that wouldn't be happening, of course, if Argentina weren't already a very excellent team. So that in mind, I definitely do think that Argentina could win the World Cup here back-to-back. Now, looking at the score for the match, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds of that, just in case, for example, Argentina don't win, or to spoil my prediction, and then I'll have nothing to talk about for the next live stream. But I think that the match is definitely going to be a low-scoring affair. Spain have only conceded 1 goal so far this entire World Cup, and I doubt that that's going to change too much if they get when it comes to the World Cup final. If the highest scoring I see this match being is having 3 goals. At the very highest, I think that Argentina could win 2-1, but I think it's a lot more likely that the match ends up going 1-0 in either direction. And what I'm thinking so far is that 1-0 goes in Argentina's direction. Oh, we have a comment so far here, a new comment. I personally barely see Argentina conceding from England at all. Argentina tries the least necessary to barely win the match, and England tries the best and still barely wins. That's definitely a point that I agree with, right? Argentina so far, whenever they've come against opponents, they've completely change their play style after scoring. For example, when they were playing versus Switzerland, they definitely opened the match playing a bit more offensively. However, as soon as they had their first goal, they just completely locked down and tried to defend. It was quite hilarious, actually. They scored in the 10th minute, and then they played like they were a completely defensive team, and they just let Messi walk around while they were defending. And to your point as well about England, definitely they've in a lot of matches when England have been behind, they've had to chase the match a ton, like versus Congo, or they've had to defend extremely aggressively, like versus Mexico. And then in their match versus Norway, they also just barely escaped past Norway, and we're very lucky that Norway's second striker, Alexander Sorloth, didn't pass to Holland. That was the defining moment of the match, I think, where England got really lucky in the normal time, and then they were able to just squeak by in extra time with heroics from Jude Bellingham. So definitely, I see the Argentina versus England match being extremely close. So if you barely see Argentina conceding from England at all, then definitely it's going to be that's probably going to be a low scoring affair as well. I think I predicted a 2-2 match. I personally think that it could be a lot more open than we think due to both teams being tired. But of course, that could also work in the other direction with due to both teams being tired, it being a much more cagey match where nobody wants to take too many risks. So thanks for leaving your predictions on that here in the comment. It's always very nice to hear different opinions on how the match could go. Oh, we're not building on the screen. We just got to do that real quick. Push the camera back, make sure we have everything on screen here. We have a new comment coming in. How many pieces does this Lego have? It has about 2,800 pieces. The biggest one I've ever built, and definitely a great Lego to be building when it comes to the World Cup. You comment, do you think Spain has what it takes in the final to take home the cup? Going off, continuing from the previous line of thought I was on, I think they have what it takes. However, I don't think that they'll be able to do it. So we'll just be taking a quick intermission here again for about 20 seconds. I'll come back and answer that question, but I did just drop a piece as well that we need for the build, so I'll be getting that real quick. Okay, we've got our piece now. We can continue with the build and with the question. So, you think Spain has what it takes to win the final of the World Cup? I think Spain have what it takes. However, I don't think that they'll be able to do it. So, just to explain further on that, Spain definitely have a very high quality team, and it's definitely the sort of team that's the sum of their parts and not each part separately. Argentina's team has the oh, what's going on here? All right, there we are. So Argentina's team has the capability to do both. The team is all together working around Messi. They're all able to work together very well to get the ball to Messi and make sure that things work out for them basically based off of Messi's quality and all of them doing a lot of running around to cover for what Messi doesn't do. Spain are definitely definitely a lot more evenly distributed, and a lot of their players who aren't even that well known have been their star players at this World Cup. For example, their striker Mikel Oyarzabal. When he's playing for his club, he is a perfectly decent striker. However, playing for Spain, he's basically been a revelation for them, scoring 5 goals so far. Perhaps 6? No, 5 goals so far, which has definitely been a boon for Spain's fortunes. So Spain definitely have the talent to win, but I think their most likely chance of winning is if Messi has an off day during the World Cup final. Assuming Messi is not able to put in a good shift, then I think Spain definitely win comfortably. I could see Spain winning as much as 2-0 or even 3-0 perhaps versus Argentina. However, I do think that Messi is going to be showing up for Argentina for the World Cup final. And like I think I mentioned earlier, I think Argentina have a pretty big chance of being able to win back-to-back World Cups. This would be their first time winning back-to-back World Cups and only the third time it's happened. I think the only other times that back-to-back World Cups have been won was actually, I think it would be only the second time a team has won back-to-back World Cups. If I recall correctly, the only time it's happened, third time actually. Italy won back-to-back World Cups in 1934 and 1938, and Brazil won back-to-back World Cups in 1958 and 1962. So if it comes to the final like that, either way, no matter what happens, I think it'll be low scoring, with most having 3 goals and much more likely being a 1-0 in either direction. And I think if it comes to that, then I think that it'll be 1-0 in Argentina's direction. So just looking at our build for the World Cup again, there's just some interesting stuff here we got to put together real quick. All right, that's taken care of. So, yeah, when it comes to the final, I think if it comes to Argentina versus Spain, that Argentina would be able to just about walk by winners 1-0. I don't even think that, in fact, it actually could go to extra time. I definitely see that being a low scoring match, and it could even go through the whole 90 minutes with not a single goal scored. I'm going to extra time 0-0, which would be reminiscent of the 2014 World Cup final where Argentina faced off versus Germany. And it was 0-0 going in extra time, with Germany scoring a late goal in extra time to win 1-0. This time, though, I do think the tables will be turned, with Argentina scoring a late goal in extra time to go through after a quite a match that sees no goals in standard time. We have another comment here. What do you think about the 2022 World Cup Argentina versus Netherlands match? Well, I think that was quite an interesting match, to say the least. First, talking about the football, of course, it was insane for Argentina, I think, to be 2-0 up. And then the Netherlands scored 2 excellent goals in extra time, in added time to send it to extra time. Especially that one goal by Wout Weghorst, which was insane, where the Netherlands player in the last minute of added time passed it under the wall for Weghorst to get an equalizer. So that was definitely an extremely entertaining match. If you're referring to the refereeing of the match, I honestly can't remember it too correctly. However, I can't remember it too vividly. However, definitely after reading past it again and trying to remember the details, there was a lot of just insane stuff going on during the match, with a great deal of red cards handed out. And I actually looked it up afterwards, and apparently they refer to it in a similar vein to the 2006 World Cup match between, I think it was Portugal and the Netherlands, which saw 4 red cards and the 16 yellow cards. I think this World Cup that match, Netherlands versus Argentina, if I recall correctly, only Denzel Dumfries got a red card, I think. I'll look up the match statistics real quick just to make sure. Right, just checking the statistics of the match, they handed out 18 yellow cards during that match, which is insane, and definitely uh, especially poor performance from the referee, letting the match get out of control like that. And then, of course, we also had some of the controversies, like Messi escaping what should have been a yellow card, which he at the very least did again this World Cup when he committed a foul against an Algerian player in the opening match of the World of Argentina's campaign, which was definitely a contentious decision. And then also at that match, I think another Argentinian player, Leandro Paredes, also escaped from a potential yellow or red card. This is definitely a very controversial match, and I think the best way to put it is just that the referee should have done a much better job at keeping the match under control. And when he was trying to get it back under control, he did a very poor job of doing that, which left it open to potential interpretations of bias, and of course, just made for an all-around ridiculous match. With that being said, I'd say Argentina definitely did at the very least, deserve to go through there. And the Netherlands are always, at least recently anyway, the Netherlands have never been quite up to what they used to be in terms of their being a football powerhouse. As we can see from this World Cup, when they played versus Morocco, they played an extremely defensive game, and they just scored one goal and otherwise did basically nothing, and committed a multitude of fouls as well against Morocco. And at the end of the day, Morocco ended up winning against them, and the Netherlands crashed out once again. And it's quite unfortunate for the Netherlands, considering that they've had several past excellent generations of players, such as of course in the 70s and 80s with Johan Cruyff and all their other excellent players, and how many finals they've reached. But unfortunately for them, they've just not looked up to it for the past 12, 16 years or so, ever since their last World Cup final versus, if I recall, it was Spain in 2010 when they lost 1-0. So that's my thoughts on the Netherlands versus Argentina. And now that we've finished talking about the 2026 World Cup, what I think is probably going to happen, and that we've talked a little bit about the previous World Cup, we can talk a little. Any more football questions anybody has, make sure to ask them in the chat. This is probably the only chance I'm ever going to be having to talk about football here on the Lego channel. Any Lego questions, of course, you have, make sure to ask them in the chat. Happy to answer anything. We'll look up any information that we need to if we have to, and yeah. So I guess we'll just talk a little bit more about some football topics. There's definitely been some. Well, I guess we can talk about some of the players who are potentially retiring after this World Cup. Cristiano Ronaldo. This is apparently his last World Cup for the Portugal national team. It's unfortunate to see an excellent player retire, of course, but at this point, he does seem to be, unfortunately, at an age where he doesn't contribute to the national team as much as he used to. So it does seem about right. It does appear he's going to stay with the Portugal national team for at least a couple more years, perhaps until the 2028 Euros. Portugal's new manager appears to like the player, so I definitely expect him to keep being picked for at least a couple years. He's near 1,000 goals, so I do expect him to get to that goal, play for Portugal another year or two, and then to retire. When it comes to Messi, he's been ambiguous on if he's going to play at the next World Cup or not. Messi is 39 years old for this World Cup, and because of his age, and like I mentioned, Argentina building their system around him, their strategy has mostly been for everybody to run extra so that Messi can walk. Messi has ran the least of any player at this World Cup so far, if I recall correctly. However, he's also contributed some of the most to Argentina with his all his goals and assists and his intelligent reading of the plays. So for Argentina, it's definitely been a fair trade-off. So with that in mind, I think it's definitely very possible that Messi could play at the next World Cup. He himself has left the door open to it. I think saying, well, he's not said too much about it, but considering that he hasn't explicitly said he's going to retire, that's usually an indication that the door is still open for him to play. He signed a new contract with the MLS club he currently plays for, Inter Miami, until 2028. And assuming he makes it that long through the contract, I don't see why he wouldn't just try to make it a couple extra years to make it to the 2030 World Cup. He doesn't run as much as any other player. Like I mentioned, he runs the least out of any player at the World Cup. And since his game is mostly based on him making well-timed runs and reading the play well, which won't be something that he'll lose too much as he ages, I could definitely feasibly see Messi at 43 playing at the World Cup. It should be kept in mind that there is precedent for outfield players this old playing at the World Cup before. For example, Ronaldo at this World Cup was 41. He wasn't the best at this age, but he did still score 3 goals for Portugal. Messi wouldn't need to take as active as a role of Ronaldo, since Messi's game is mostly based around excellent passing and well-timed runs, and having the entire team built around him. Portugal aren't built in the same way, so Argentina would definitely still be able to accommodate him if he did still decide to play. And like I mentioned earlier, Ronaldo played this World Cup at the age of 41. And also, other players who played at a similar age was Roger Milla, who played for Cameroon. He played the 1994 World Cup at the age of 42. He was basically a breakout star at the 1990 World Cup, age 38, when he scored 4 goals for Cameroon, leading them on an epic quarterfinal run. And then he played at the next World Cup at the age of 42 to for Cameroon as well, and was still able to score a goal. And he was, in fact, the oldest player to ever score a goal at the World Cup. So if Messi was to play at the 2026 World Cup, he could potentially try to take that record as well. You see, we have another comment coming in. Do you think if Ronaldo had more help, would Portugal still be in this race for the World Cup? So, in regards to that question, I think Portugal definitely had one of two choices that they should have pursued. They could have either built the team more around Ronaldo to be focused on having him as a target man for them to get to score, which is one strategy, or another strategy would have been to drop Ronaldo and have him as a super sub and to instead start their other strikers such as Goncalo Ramos. I think one of either of those two strategies would have had to have been employed, because it does have to be kept in mind that Ronaldo's style of play needs him to be more active to be scoring goals, which is different from Messi's, who, even though Messi is near the same age, still has it in him be to play how he does and to contribute a lot like that. For Ronaldo, either the team would need to be built around him, or the team would need to have him as a secondary player. And unfortunately for Portugal, they didn't do either of those, and their manager as well, just all by himself, was not that excellent of a manager. This manager was well known for managing Belgium and for squandering away some of their major talent over the past decade or two. Not or two, the past decade, when he was Belgium manager. So, if memory serves me correct, Belgium went out in the group stage of the 2022 World Cup, and they failed in the semifinals of the 2018 World Cup. And in between, they didn't do that all that much, even though they were highly rated as the FIFA ratings had them as the best rated as the best team in the world, which was a bit of an inside joke considering that they didn't actually win anything. So yeah, I think that's how it goes for Portugal. Instead of either of those things, they just kind of went in between, starting Ronaldo just like he could still do anything a normal player could do, while also and just leaving it at that. So for large portions of the match, it was basically like Portugal was playing with 10 men, and with the tactics not being all that good from their manager in the first place, it just didn't go well for them. Their new manager is actually managed Ronaldo last year in the club he plays for, and is more friendly to to accommodating Ronaldo's style of play. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out in the next year or so. It's quite possible that Ronaldo just continues to drop off as he ages and he retires soon. But it's also possible that if the manager constructs the team to accommodate him, that he could play for another couple years. I do very much doubt, though, that he'll be at the next World Cup. We have a few more comments trickling in. How big is this Lego? Let's see. If I were to measure it, I'd give a good 18-inch guess. I'd say 18 inches or so. Yeah, it's definitely big on the camera, and even in real life as well, it's really big. The camera doesn't quite show the scale of it, but just like this, it's got to be at least a foot long, and there's probably like 4 more inches to add on top with the globe that goes on the top of the World Cup. We have another comment coming in. What other leagues do you follow for football and or for other sports? So other leagues that all the important leagues that I follow include, for example, we have just finish putting a couple of these pieces on before I answer that. Right. So a couple of the other big leagues that I follow include the Premier League, of course. I'm definitely a big watcher of the Premier League. And then let's see, going over this a bit more. Let's just try to get these panels on before we finish here. It looks a bit complicated putting them on. See, it looks like they're supposed to go on like that. Right. And it goes like that. And that goes on like that. So this is what we have the World Cup so far. Definitely coming together quite nicely. Let's get to the next bag and answer the question. So there's the Premier League, of course, which of course has a lot of the best footballers in the world who go to the Premier League. There's definitely a lot of stuff going on there this summer. For example, let's see if we can go over some of the major transfer deals. The football club Arsenal have signed the Brazilian midfielder Bruno Guimaraes, or they're planning to, from Newcastle United. Manchester United have signed Yuri Tielemans and Andre Santos from Aston Villa and Chelsea, respectively. Manchester City have signed Elliot Anderson from Nottingham Forest and plan to sign Bouadi, who is a young Moroccan prospect from Lille. And Liverpool have signed Victor Munoz and a couple of other players, I think, so far. And rounding off the top six, we have Spurs, who have signed. They almost got relegated last year, so have absolutely splurged this season by signing Sandro Tonali from Newcastle, Mateus Fernandes from West Ham, and a couple of other extremely expensive players who I'm forgetting right now. I think John Paul van Heck from Brighton for about £60 million. There's a lot of business that's been going on in the Premier League this season, in the World Cup off season. And so looking at other leagues now, there's La Liga. I don't watch too many La Liga matches because they're harder to access than Premier League matches. But whenever you can catch them, watching an El Clasico is always good, or watching Atletico Madrid versus Real Madrid. Or if you can catch them, watching the football club Getafe is hilarious because they play an extremely defensive brand of football, which a lot of people hate. So I'm pretty sure they have the lowest goals scored in the league, but still somehow managed to finish in the top half, which is hilarious, of course. Other leagues, the German Bundesliga, I follow that a little bit. Don't usually watch matches, though. Definitely, though, it's interesting to watch, although it's usually won by the football club Bayern Munich. They almost always win the league every year. Other leagues include the Mexican Liga MX. That's more accessible to watch here in the North American continent. So watching those matches is always interesting, especially since a lot of Mexico's national team play in the domestic league for Mexico. So if you want a chance to see how their players normally perform for their clubs, you can watch it there. The MLS is usually available. The quality of the football is unfortunately not the highest standard. However, for the clubs that are at the top, they definitely have some high standard football and some excellent footballers. For example, Inter Miami is basically also a club that's Messi and friends, since it has a lot of his near retirement ex-Barcelona teammates and other players like Casemiro, who's signing for them from Manchester United. LA Galaxy as well and LAFC both have some decent players, so it's interesting to see them play sometimes. And then following some more obscure leagues is interesting on occasion as well. We have another new comment coming in. Which LEGO themes do you miss the most or consider wasted potential? So this is definitely interesting. So some are miss the most and wasted potential, I think, are two separate questions. So wasted potential, I think, two LEGO themes, which I think were wasted potential from LEGO. These are going to be kind of completely random, but I think that LEGO SpongeBob and LEGO Avatar: The Last Airbender were both wasted potential from LEGO. And so both of those themes are from very popular IPs, which I think would have done very well in LEGO, and they did do well in LEGO. And I think if they had continued with them, that they definitely had a lot of potential to them. However, they did end up canceling both themes, LEGO SpongeBob after only a couple years and LEGO Avatar: The Last Airbender after only 3 sets. So those definitely had a lot of potential. However, they ended up canceling those. So it would have been interesting to see how those went, but they didn't end up going. As for the first question about the LEGO theme that I missed the most, I think I'm mainly a LEGO Star Wars guy, so LEGO Star Wars is my main thing. However, I'd say the Lego theme I miss the most is definitely got to be Indiana Jones. The Indiana Jones Lego theme only lasted a couple years, and it came back for a very brief revival a few years ago, and it had a ton of just amazing sets for the most part. There was a They had the escape from the Temple of the Lost Idol, the tomb. I actually think I built that here on the channel at some point. The tomb that they escaped from in Raiders of the Lost Ark in Egypt, and they also had the airplane chase from the what was it, the Lost Crusade movie, which they released a couple years ago. And then the original run of Indiana Jones as well was also an excellent thing to see. I've actually made a couple Lego Indiana Jones videos reviewing the Lost Tomb set, which they released a couple years ago, and also doing a ranking of every Indiana Jones Lego set from worst to best. So it's definitely a great Lego theme, and it was really definitely disappointing to see it gone again. I was gone for, I think, about 15 years, came back for 1 year, and then disappeared off the face of the earth again. I do plan on making another video yet, doing more speculation on why it might have been canceled. I did do a couple videos at the time talking about it, but some more information has come out since then. Some ideas have definitely changed on what could have happened. So I do plan on doing that in the near future. It's an idea I've had, and I definitely want to get that out in the next few months. So yeah, out of all the Lego themes which have been canceled, I'd say I miss Indiana Jones the most. And out of the ones that had the most potential, I'd say that the Lego Avatar: The Last Airbender and Lego SpongeBob had a lot of potential. So considering the fact that we don't have too much more football to talk about or too much more Legos to talk about here, I think I'll keep the stream going for perhaps another half hour. Any more football questions or any more Lego questions, happy to answer. We'll hopefully finish one more bag after this, and after that, I think that we'll close out the stream. So we have another comment here from let's see, which team playing next do you think is going to win? So the teams playing next, Argentina versus England. I went through the match preview. I think that it's going to be a win for Argentina. I think they're going to beat England. It's going to be a very close, tight match on penalties. Last question: do you follow any other sports? Yes. The main sport, of course, is football, because I have the second channel about soccer, football. The second channel, which is about football, haven't posted on there in a while, but definitely still do follow football. Of course, other widely available interesting sports include basketball, for example. NBA is the Premier League in the United States, and it's definitely an interesting league to follow when I can. Other than that, I'd say those are mostly the main two. There might be another one I'm just completely blanking on right now, but I'd say that's about it. Let's see. Did I think France was going to lose? No, I did not think France was going to lose. In my stream from yesterday, I had predicted that they would win the match 2-1. Based off all their previous performances, I was quite confident that they'd actually have a pretty good chance of beating Spain. Spain, of course, had done very well in their previous matches, but I didn't think that they'd be able to win here. France, unfortunately for them, just didn't show up at all for this World Cup semifinal. They looked completely bereft of ideas. They didn't have a single shot on target in the first half, and Spain were able to get basically just get a good result overall with the penalty they won in the first half, and then things went their way as well when France's main center back got injured in the 30th minute or so. With all that happening, things went in Spain's favor, and France just didn't have it in them to respond. In the second half, Spain got their second goal and closed out the match pretty comfortably. Even at the end, when France were trying to push to score, they just couldn't score with how well Spain were defending and keeping possession of the ball away from them. So that was definitely a shock for me that France did so poorly. But as it is, Spain did their job, and they're in the final of the World Cup now for only the second time in their history. Of course, anybody who's a fan of Spain now is going to be saying that they have a 100% record of winning World Cup finals. However, that is in fact only because they've only been in one World Cup final before, and that's the one that they won. France, of course, are going to be going home disappointed after that loss. They're replacing their manager after this. They're getting in a new manager. Zinedine Zidane is going to be their manager, and they're definitely going to be hoping to do better off around at the next World Cup. Oh yeah, as you said, they lost. Spain got the job done versus them 2-0, a pretty comfortable win. Yeah, yeah, I agree with this as well. It's a big surprise that France just lost so comfortably to Spain. It definitely looked like France were going to do better before the match, but as you can see from the match, Spain very comfortably won. Yeah, as you say here, 100% is 100%. Spain, to the merit, do have a 100% record in World Cup finals. Uh, so that'll definitely be a positive for their mentality going into this next match. They played one World Cup final and they won one World Cup final. So considering they've won every World Cup final they played in, they're definitely going to be looking at that positively for this. Argentina, on the other hand, have a pretty good record at World Cup. Well, of course, Argentina would first have to win versus England, but they do otherwise have a pretty good record in World Cup finals, only losing one, I think, to West Germany in 1990. Or was it 1982? It was 1990. Next comment here. What do you think about Lego Chima and Ninjago? Lego Chima and Ninjago, those were definitely themes I could have brought up earlier as well when you talked about underrated themes. I think that was a question, but yeah, Lego Chima, that I definitely put that under the wasted potential. Lego Chima was a pretty cool theme. I think I had a Lego Chima set at some point too, actually, and Lego Chima was definitely a very cool concept that Lego made. All the themes that Lego makes for themselves are definitely interesting ideas. Because usually they, of course, either license out IPs or they'll just make original Lego themes. But for these two, they made the TV shows for them, and then they made the Lego lineup based off of them, which is very interesting. Chima, unfortunately, was canceled after only a few years, I remember, and it's definitely interesting to see where that could have gone if it lasted longer. Lego Ninjago, though, it definitely feels like they've been keeping Ninjago going on for quite a while. And although the show has gotten a bit repetitive with going on like 20 seasons or so, I think now. Most of the sets they put out for the show are definitely very nice. They're usually more decently priced since they don't have to pay licensing fees for them. And it's definitely, all in all, a pretty decent line of sets, I'd say. Have another couple comments. England Argentina, would it be considered a classic rivalry? I definitely would say so. In the World Cup between the two, I think England has more wins so far with 3 wins versus Argentina's 2. However, Argentina does in fact have the 2 most important wins, I guess you could say, with the hand of God goal from Maradona, the goal of the century he scored in that same match versus England to beat England, and then of course there was also the a match that they played versus England. I think it was the 1998 World Cup where they beat them on penalties. So it's definitely going to be very interesting to see the two go up against each other, and I'm assuming the tensions are definitely going to be very, very high during this match. There is a reason, of course, why English referees are not allowed to referee Argentina matches still at this point. Oh, move the camera a bit. Let's get that back on focus. Right, camera's back in focus now. Let's keep building. So we have a few more comments coming in. Let's see. Since you follow the NBA, I wanted to ask you what you think LeBron will go for his next team. I know there's one of his biggest stories in sports right now. Yeah. So LeBron James, just big basketball player, probably one of the biggest of the modern era, just left the Los Angeles Lakers, and I'm not quite sure where he might be going. I think there's been some rumors about. I think there was some rumors about him joining some team out in the Midwest. I haven't been following the rumors too closely though. Really, I'm basically just waiting to see where he would join if he joins somewhere. Um, I think a good possibility is he goes back to a former team, perhaps after leaving the Lakers. But other than that, I'm not too well versed on the moment on where he might be going. I'm basically just waiting and seeing for that for the most part. So, did Lego make pieces out of other materials? Yes, I do think I made a short about this in my Lego Fast Facts series. I think they make their pieces out of they've still continued using mostly the same material to make their pieces. I think it's a special type of plastic that they use, and they have ginormous vats which they cook up the plastic in before putting them into molds to where they cool down. It's a quite interesting process. I can't quite remember exactly how it goes right now, but if I can, I'll maybe put the short in the comments section, or I'll try to find it and explain it later at the next live stream too. So because they can't just make it plastic, right? Yeah, it can't just be plastic because that would be a very poor formula for making the Lego pieces how they make them. So I'm pretty sure it has percentages of other types of plastic and whatnot. But but yeah, it's a percentages, types of plastic, and other chemicals that they use. I think the chemical's name has like an A and a B in it, the chemical formula. I just don't remember everything about it right now. I have a short though, like I mentioned earlier, and I'll definitely pull that up and try to have that ready for next live stream to have all that information ready. Next comment. How much longer until the live stream finishes? Probably maybe after this bag, perhaps. So it's been quite a while for the live stream, and definitely have a good attendance. We'll go one bag more at most, or after this bag finishes. What do you think of the Harry Potter Lego sets? I always wanted to get one of those. So definitely the Harry Potter Lego sets are interesting. I've made a couple videos on them because there's definitely been a lot of interesting sets that they've put out. Um, the I am the Lego dude, and even though my main focus is Lego Star Wars, because I know quite a bit about Star Wars, like Star Wars a lot, very great, a lot of great movies, great franchise, great Lego sets. I have also looked into some of the other Lego themes and made a few videos on Lego Harry Potter, for example. I think they're putting out they put out a bunch of new sets all the time, and it's great to see that the IP is getting a lot of sets from Lego, a lot of pretty good sets as well. However, one problem that they seem to have is it being very repetitive with their sets. So since the world is only restricted to the 7 movies and they all take place in basically the same location, Lego definitely have a hilarious problem where they basically release the same set 3 times over. I mean, I can't count how many times now that they've restarted with they're putting together a bunch of modular sets to build Hogwarts, and then they release the exact same sets about every 3 or 4 years, just with a different coloration and slightly different designs. But overall, I'd say that the Harry Potter theme definitely has a lot of excellent sets. Like, for example, I know that I'm pretty sure a couple years back they made UCS Diagon Alley, which had a lot of the buildings included there, a lot of the excellent details. I think they included a lot of the cool stores they had there, and they always have the opportunity to put in little Easter eggs in those. So it's definitely good to see all of that happen. And then, of course, now in 2026, they're putting out more sets. I think earlier this year they put out like I think I made a video about this too, a buildable version of the sorting hat with a sound brick inside of it, so that it could make voices or noises. Unfortunately for us though, the sound brick is not of the highest quality, so I don't think it ended up that well. I haven't followed up on what exactly happened with all that, so I definitely plan to take a look at that again to see how that goes, or how that went, to be more exact. But yeah, overall, my thoughts on the Lego Harry Potter theme are that it definitely gets a lot of excellent sets, and they definitely have some sets that I've looked at and thought that they'd be decent to build on the channel as well, and that it's overall just a pretty good theme. And with Lego as well, doing quite well with the theme and making a lot of new big sets like the Hogwarts train and whatnot, I don't think that it'll be getting canceled anytime soon. Especially, of course, with the apparent new Harry Potter TV show, which is set to be coming out in the over the next decade. So Lego are definitely going to be wanting to milk that for as many Lego sets as they can. So we have another couple of comments coming in. We have what's your opinion on the sequels? I think the sequel trilogy is a mix of decent movies and not so decent movies, to say the least. I don't want to talk about it too much. However, I'd say the first movie was pretty decent. It kind of felt like a repeat of A New Hope. And of course, although that was a little bit ridiculous to be having a repeat of A New Hope like that, it was still a decent movie. It's due merit. And after that, of course, the After that, of course, the plan for the sequel trilogy seems to have just got completely muddled, and it definitely did not go along well. out of the three trilogies, I could definitely say it's comfortably the worst out of all of them. The best, I'd say the best is the original trilogy. I'd say slightly less high quality is the as much as I like the prequels, they are not as good as the original trilogy. And then at the bottom we have the sequel trilogy, and I don't think there'd be too much complaints about that. Next comment: what do you think about the Nintendo Legos? I saw the Nintendo Legos that Lego made of the Nintendo Switch, and I think that it's absolute. Oh, first off, for the model itself, I think it's definitely a great model. It looks just like the Nintendo, and it's absolutely hilarious to be getting a copy of the Nintendo in Lego. It's also kind of hilarious though that the copy of the Lego Nintendo itself costs more than an actual Nintendo, which is definitely a decision, but it looks to be a great build. It looks almost exactly like the Nintendo, and it's definitely amazing how great Lego have gotten at replicating all other types of things in Lego. I think, for example, they made a Lego camera recently, which looks just like a camera basically. They've made all types of other things which have definitely what happens? There we go. That seem to be excellent builds. In fact, I do think they're also making a Lego arcade game. A Lego version of an arcade game of a Lego version of Donkey Kong, if I remember correctly, which looks to be great as well. So it's definitely crazy with all the excellent Legos that they've been making of these video games. Just making sure we have all the pieces here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, that's all of them. So look, oh, we have a few more comments here. Which Lego theme or set available on the market right now would you say are worth buying and are at a fair price line? So this is definitely kind of difficult because a lot of the Lego themes are not at the moment are not quite that fair with their prices. For example, Star Wars, a lot of Lego Star Wars sets have been extremely overpriced, and even though they're very good and high quality for the most part, buying them at their market price is just definitely not kind of unreasonable at this point. And then there's other themes. It's usually the licensed IPs which are more expensive. So, for example, if you're getting a Star Wars set, it's probably better to get it when it's on a discount. Or a Harry Potter set, if you will, it's probably better to get it when it's on a discount. If we're just talking about fair prices though and worth buying, I'd say that Lego's original themes, such as Lego Ninjago or Lego Chima when it was around, but right now mostly Lego Ninjago have sets which are more fairly priced. It's Since Lego make them themselves, they don't have to pay any licensing fees, which removes the excuse for Lego to up the price as much as they do, so they're usually more fairly priced. Now we just got to put these panels up here on the World Cup, see quite how they go. Definitely doing good here on building it. We have a few more comments coming in. Let's see, nice video. Thanks, I appreciate it. What do you think of the Marvel Legos? I don't know too much about the Marvel Legos. I remember I made a video a while back about I think it was Lego X-Men Mansion that I was releasing, and the Lego X-Men Mansion was definitely a very high quality set. So I remember that, and that was very good. And I know Lego definitely give a lot of definitely produce a lot of excellent sets for the Marvel IP. So I haven't looked over them in a while, but definitely Lego have a good track record when it comes to Marvel Legos. So I think that we're just about done with that bag. Some extra pieces here. I'll look afterwards if we need to put them on somewhere, but for now it looks just about fine. So we'll check that out a bit later. But for now, we'll put that aside. And now I'll ask everybody here in the chat, do you think we should go for one more bag, or do you think we should end the stream here? So I'll read these last few comments. So did you see and like the Pharrell Lego movie? I've not seen the Pharrell Lego movie yet. I definitely do on taking a look at that at some point, but it's definitely very interesting considering all the Legos it had, of course, and how that was all integrated in with Legos for the movie. So that's definitely a very interesting concept movie, which I look at seeing at some point. What do you think about the? Oh, let's see. We have a comment here. See, yes, go for one more bag. All right, we'll build one more bag then. Last bag, and then we end the stream. So we have a bunch of small pieces here. We can't let them all roll off because they all look like they're going to be needed for some fine detailing here. So let's see. What do you think about the Transformers Legos Lego made? Oh yes, this is definitely a very interesting question. So just recently, Lego made a Lego Optimus Prime, and they made a Lego Bumblebee characters, and I think those are both very excellent Legos. Unfortunately, their prices are quite high. However, Lego did a great job with designing the both of them. They're both in the style of action figures, and you're able to transform them, which is very nice. It's just the prices which are not so nice. However, I'd say that they're both very excellent models, especially the Bumblebee model, which is smaller and a little bit cheaper. So, yeah, both of those are definitely excellent interpretations of the Transformers by Lego. Next comment up here. What do you think about the Lego DC sets? DC is probably the one like main type of theme I don't know too much about. The one part I do know about is they made some Lego Batman sets, and a lot of those are definitely pretty good. I think a couple years back they made a Lego Batman action figure, which was interesting to say the least. It was half decent, not all too decent though. They made a buildable Lego Batman with his motorcycle, which was also okay, decent. And then also one of their main sets that they made was I think the Lego Bat Tumbler, which consists of Lego's ground vehicle, and I think that was a pretty good set. And I think there was some controversy about it as well because they made an old version from a few years back, which was much cheaper and bigger, and then they made a new version not that long afterwards, which was much more expensive and smaller than the previous version, which definitely caused a bit of outrage. And and then of course the main iconic DC set that we're probably all thinking of is the Lego Batcave. And the Batcave, of course, was definitely an interesting concept that they designed. I'm pretty sure it was box shaped or in the shape of some sort of a geometric shape, and then you were able to open it to access the Batcave. And that was definitely quite an interesting set that Lego made. They included a lot of the accurate rooms from the Batcave, which was interesting to see. However, the choice that they made by making it that shape is definitely ruffled some feathers. So what theme do you want Lego to launch? Oh, this is definitely very interesting. If we're talking about themes that I'd like them to relaunch, then I definitely like to see Indiana Jones come back. Because, like I mentioned earlier, Indiana Jones is a theme that I think is great and definitely deserves to come back. If we're talking about a new theme, though, I honestly don't know too many options I could think of right now that would be good for Lego to get. I'm pretty sure there's some IPs that they've had suspended or taken away that would be interesting to see more Legos for. Let me just think for a moment. They got their license for Lord of the Rings back, so they're able to make Lord of the Rings Legos again. So that's interesting. It would be interesting if they made. I suppose it'd be interesting if they don't have the license for Lego Hobbit yet. It'd be interesting if they could get that back and make Hobbit sets again based off the Hobbit books. But I'm pretty sure that they've already made sets before, so I'm not sure if that would fit the criteria. So I'll try to sit on that question for a bit and think if I can think of any new themes. Some new themes they are launching though in the past couple years include apparently they've reached an agreement with Pokemon so that they can launch a Lego Pokemon theme. So Lego have been and are releasing a brand new wave of Pokemon Lego sets, which is definitely very big as we all know how popular Pokemon is, and so that's definitely going to be quite big for Lego. maybe a bit of a miscellaneous theme, which I think would be cool, is if they made a Lego history theme, if you will. They won't do this, of course, because there's a lot of historical topics that they definitely wouldn't touch on. But for example, if they could have, they could build historical buildings, famous historical buildings, like for example, the pyramids, or for example, I don't know, some very high-profile bridges, the San Francisco Bridge, the other things like the Tower of Alexandria, some of the things, monuments all over the world, and some other like historical events, such as, for example, famous battles or famous signings of documents, that kind of thing. That would be an interesting miscellaneous theme for Lego to do. Like I said, though, they probably wouldn't do that, as that touching on that would definitely be quite a political thing that could cause them issues that they usually try to avoid. So next comment we have from, do you think Godzilla Legos would be good? Definitely Godzilla Legos would be a nice new thing to have. And in fact, I do think we are, let me just make sure all the pieces are incorrect for this. Right, we're all good then. So yeah, Godzilla Legos would definitely be very nice to have. As we know, Godzilla is also a very popular movie franchise with so many different movies over the past 70 years, which have gained a great deal of popularity among a large portion of people. And in fact, Lego are making one Lego Godzilla themed set this year, which is the Lego Godzilla itself, which won a Lego Ideas contest from a fan contest to be made as a Lego set. It's going to be releasing in a couple months, and it'll definitely be interesting to see how that turns out. If I can, I'll definitely try to make a video on that, because it's definitely a very interesting thing to be seeing. Looks like we might be missing a piece here. Let's just take a look around. It's always a bit difficult when the little pieces go missing. Let's see where it could be. Looks like this is the piece we're looking for. All right, good, we found that. All right, let's see if we have any more comments. Next comment. What is your favorite set from the Icons theme? Oh, this is definitely a good one. I think that let me just check real quick to see if it's the set I'm talking about, to see if it's the theme that I'm talking about from. So I'll be back from that in a few seconds. Right. So just to confirm that those were the correct sets in the theme, a couple of the sets from the Lego Icons theme I'm a big fan of. Well, first off, they have the Captain Jack Sparrow's Pirates of the Caribbean ship. I think that was an excellent inclusion to have in the Icons theme, and definitely a great set with a great design. And another great one I think they have is the Old Trafford Stadium, which is also a great part of the theme. Lego have made a couple stadiums like the Camp Nou as well, and all the stadiums they make in Lego are always interesting to see. Of course, they definitely don't serve any play value after they've been built. However, it's still just awesome to see them after they've been built. And the Lego Old Trafford definitely looks to be an amazing design. Next, you think Lego will bring back Bionicles? This has definitely been a big talking point for several years about if Lego will bring back Bionicles. And as much as I hope that they bring back Bionicles, I do think it's quite doubtful. In fact, I do think they announced something about redoing a couple Bionicle set, but I honestly can't quite remember if that was legitimate or not, so I won't comment any more on that. But I definitely don't think, unfortunately, that they'll bring back Bionicles, as nice as it would be. The theme didn't sell that well, I think, which was the primary reason it was canceled, and I'm not sure it would sell any better if they were to release it now. or that they'd even be willing to take the chance on Bionicles. So moving on to the next comment, we have let's see, they had Castle and Pirates back in the 2000s. It seems pretty historical to me. Oh, of course, Lego Castle. I almost completely forgot about that theme. Yes, that was definitely an interesting theme they had going on there for a while. I think they can. I think that they had canceled it, and I'm not sure if they had that back yet. And then the Pirates of the Caribbean. Yes, I definitely remember that. They had the Pirates of the Caribbean Lego sets for a couple of years, I think at least. And it was definitely great to see those on shelves when they were. I definitely remember back then that I thought those were very cool sets. In fact, I do think I have one Pirates of the Caribbean set, but I have to go checking through the old Lego collection to find them, because if I do have it, the box is definitely in a state of disrepair. And just checking as well to make sure the audio is all good, because the instructions are on the other side. I have to keep turning away to see them when I'm talking. But yeah, I think the audio is all decent. Nobody's complained about it as of far. But yeah, the Lego Indiana Jones definitely not Indiana Jones, Pirates of the Caribbean, definitely a very nice theme that they had going on. And it was good to see it make at least a temporary comeback with the Icons Jack Sparrow ship, which was a great set to see. And as of now, actually, everybody, this is the longest live stream that I've ever had. I've been streaming continuously for about 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is kind of insane. Definitely the longest one I've done. And I'm surprised I was able to go this long with only a couple minutes break. So it's definitely been a good live stream so far. And it looks like we're going to be finishing up within maybe 10 to 15 minutes or so. So if you have any questions, make sure to get them answered. Well, asked and answered. Just checking to make sure everything's in place with all the pieces. It's definitely very common to mess up a little bit on these. All right, we're all good to move on to the next step now. And let's see any new comments in the chat so far. I have a couple more coming in. What do you think about Lego Simpsons? I've heard of the Lego Simpsons before. I'm not sure if it's a whole theme that they made, but I know they at least made a couple of sets. About the Lego Simpsons, I think the sets they did made were very excellent. I think they made a set of Apu's store, which I think was a pretty good set for, because The Simpsons takes place in a suburban area, so there's not too much exciting for Lego to build with that. But they definitely did work with it quite well and made some decent sets there, like the Apu store I mentioned. Very nice build for the store. I'm pretty sure they made the house of The Simpsons as well. That one was pretty decent. It represented a lot of the rooms pretty nicely and had enough space for, if I recall, it had all 5 members of the Simpson family. Let's check the comments again. We have a couple more. Isn't there a Star Wars character called Starkiller? And what would happen if Lego made sets for that franchise character? So yes, there is a character from Legends who is named Starkiller. If Lego were to make a character of Starkiller, I don't think that would go well with the themes that they usually try to include. And if I just have a moment to see here, I think we're missing a piece. I just need to check to make sure. All right, we found where the piece goes. Let's just get it into the set real quick. So the Star Killer video game, or the I don't remember quite what the game's called, but that has Star Killer in it, is a fairly violent game by Lego standards. Oh, did we make a mistake? No, there's no mistake. All right, it's a fairly violent game by Star Wars standards, and I'm not sure that Lego would be that open to making a set based off of it. Definitely unfortunate considering that he is a very interesting character from a very interesting bit of Star Wars Legends, but also considering the fact that it's Star Wars Legends, that's another disincentive to make a set based off of it, as Lego don't usually make as many sets based off Legends anymore. Almost finished up here. Let's see if we have any more comments. Yes. Why do you think Lego changed their signature yellow skin figures to more realistic tones? I do think I also made a short about this in my Fast Facts series, so I definitely got a lot of facts just swirling around in my head. Let's see if I can remember. I think the idea was, of course, that the yellow skin tone for the minifigures was supposed to represent a neutral skin tone. However, considering the fact that they were yellow, they considered them to be closer to some skin tones than the other skin tones, which made them, in fact, not as neutral as they would have liked them to be. So they decided that the better idea was to just make characters who were naturally skin colored the normal skin colors they would be in real life. I'll go back and look through my short just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure that that's the gist of why they changed them to having natural skin colors. In fact, if I recall correctly, the first minifigure to have a natural skin color was the original version of Lando Calrissian, which released in the early 2000s and was included in the Cloud City from that time. Incorrect piece. There we are. That's the correct piece. Definitely starting to get a bit complex here, but we're almost done with the detailing. A couple more comments coming in. What do you think of PSG? Have fallen out of following soccer and need to start watching outside of the national teams in the World Cup. As of recently, PSG have been an extremely well-run and competent team. PSG were known as a bit of a meme in years past because of how much money they had to spend and how poorly they did. They bought Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe as their front line for a total of about 400 million. And their strategy to win games was basically just buy a bunch of big name players and then hope it would go well from there. And then when it didn't go well from there, that basically made them memeable material, as you would say. Um, However, since then, PSG have changed their transfer policies to be more to after high potential younger players, and they've gotten a manager who is well known for running good projects at teams that have a vision in mind in Luis Enrique, and they've done extremely well since then, winning the Champions League 2 times in a row now, I think. They won the year before this one versus Inter Milan in a 5-0 blowout Champions League final win, probably the biggest that there's ever been, actually. And then they also won last year versus Arsenal. I think it was a 1-0 win. I can't quite remember the scoreline, though. So yeah, PSG play excellent football at this point. I'm not a fan of PSG. However, it is has to be admitted their football is very good. Their manager is very good, and they have a very strong lineup of players on their starting 11 and in their bench. They have also, of course, gotten much better at business, not just throwing hundreds of millions of pounds or euros at whatever player that they want anymore. So it seems like we're going to be done here in a couple of minutes. Any final questions that we have, I'll answer them, and then it looks like we'll be done. Have a couple more coming in here. What do you think about Star Wars: The Last Jedi? Because it was kind of a really bad sequel. Yeah, I did think I mentioned this earlier. I don't want to talk about the sequels all too much. However, just talking a little bit about them, they definitely started quite decently with the Force Awakens. It was basically just a rehash of A New Hope with new characters. So that was kind of disappointing, but it was by its merit a decent movie. And then after that, definitely with all the competing visions they had for different directors, the sequel trilogy was not going that well, especially with the episode 8 and episode 9. So I don't have too many positive things to say in regards to The Last Jedi. And what do you think of the Jurassic Park Legos? Before that, of course, the actor who played the Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park died, so rest in peace to him. And talking about the Jurassic Park Legos as well, I think that Lego have done a pretty good job making them. They've made a lot of the big molded dinosaurs. They've made excellent designs for them, and they also, of course, included a lot of the iconic minifigures and scenes from Jurassic Park. And yeah, so I think they've done a pretty good job with their Jurassic Park Legos. So, and you think they will make the original Spinosaurus, giving it a molded body? I don't quite remember from that scene so much what the original Spinosaurus looked like. However, if it's iconic enough, I can definitely see them trying to get it done. See, what do you think of FCB? I know that they have Lamine Yamal, De Jong, Ter Stegen, and they're pretty much that's pretty much it. So actually, Barcelona don't have Ter Stegen anymore. Ter Stegen has just signed a contract with Ajax in the Netherlands to join the Dutch Eredivisie, and he is not going to be playing with Barcelona anymore. He's basically been their second choice keeper for a bit now, and it looks like that's it's basically a wrap on his time for Barcelona. He was, of course, a great player for them, but it's just about time that they are moving past him. So what I will say though is they do still have the young, and they do still have Yamal, of course, is their new breakout star. Barcelona have been playing extremely well in La Liga for the past couple of years. They won La Liga, I think, for 2 consecutive years now, and they have an excellent manager with Hansi Flick, and they've built a high quality side. And the only thing about Barcelona is that they are still kind of a team that's joked about because they're always pulling financial levers to just about barely be able to pay for, as for the way they make it seem, it's to keep the lights on. They have to keep pulling financial levers to just about stay within the fair play regulations of La Liga's rules. So that is one hilarious thing about Barcelona. Other than that, though, they've built an extremely high quality team. They have an excellent manager, and they're at the top of La Liga at the moment. So we've now finished bag 10. Any last second questions we have, I'll answer them, and then we'll be getting on with the end of the live stream. I'll be back again either tomorrow or the day after that to stream again to finish the World Cup, hopefully. But that's it for now. So last second questions. I'll wait maybe 15, 20 seconds. One last question coming in. What do you think of the Mandalorian series? My opinion is one of the greatest things from Star Wars. My opinion is concurring. I think that the Mandalorian, the first 2 seasons anyway, self-contained, were an excellent self-contained series with a lot of excellent stuff going on in them. It was definitely surprising to see, considering that they were some of the first new pieces of Star Wars content, and a lot of people were definitely not on board with a lot of the new Star Wars content under Disney. However, I think that the Mandalorian series, in and of itself, did a great job at portraying the Mandalorian, Grogu, the child, and a lot of the adventures they went on across the 2 seasons. The first season especially had a lot of serialized Western style adventures where each episode was self-contained, and then the The second season had some more individual adventures, but also did an excellent job at integrating some legacy characters who was very nice to see show up. Even if it was just to point at them and be very happy they showed up, I think they did a good job of integrating that. For example, they had Boba Fett, they had Ahsoka Tano, they had Luke Skywalker at the end, and that was on Bo-Katan Kryze as well. All very nice to see. You think Lego will make another Lego Indominus Rex? It's possible, but I think they just recently made one, so probably not for a while. And last question of the stream, most likely, will Lego make clone Shadow Troopers from the comics? Lego are not known for making sets based off the comics, which is very unfortunate because there's a lot of cool stuff from the comics. However, if the Shadow Troopers ever come to the big screen or ever in some sort of animated show, I can definitely see Lego making them at least once, which would be awesome to see. So that's now going to be just about it for the stream. Thank you everybody for tuning in for the 2.5 hours I was here for the stream. We have 10 people watching. I want to thank everybody who showed up for the stream for watching. I appreciate it a lot. And I appreciate all the questions that everybody had to ask on the stream. It was a very active chat today. We got to talk about all the football, about the World Cup. And we'll be doing reaction, of course, after the Argentina versus England match. So if you can be there, then I'd appreciate that too. And just thanks to everybody for showing up, for watching, for leaving a like, any comments you left. I appreciate it a ton. So thank you to everybody for showing up, and I'll see you on the next stream. So we'll now end the stream with, let's put the graphic up. Thank you everybody for showing up. We're up to 13 viewers now. So thanks everybody, and see you next time. Yep, thank you for showing up. Thanks for showing up to the stream. I appreciate it a lot. Sigma Male 1979. So thank you to everybody for showing up one last time. I appreciate it a lot, and I'll see you at the next stream.